Cyber briefing for Wednesday, the 26th of July. I'm Stephen Ridgway. So first, some patching updates. MikroTik routers are vulnerable to takeover. Again, MikroTik routers are actually commonly used in some quite big organizations. NASA, Ericsson, Saab, Siemens, various ISPs, so on and so forth. Linux-based routers, very powerful, pretty good stuff. However, there's currently a vulnerability which is open to attack via privilege escalation. Given the fact that there is a Linux OS lying underneath this thing, if your MikroTik routers are taken over, that does give the attacker the ability to intercept any traffic going through it, and also potentially the ability to hop from that to the inside of protected networks. So one interesting thing about this is that it uses what's called return orientated programming chain, ROP, which is effectively a way in which the attacker executes malicious code by chaining together small pieces of existing code on the system. Makes it harder to identify, although not impossible to identify. There are patches available. If you are on a version of the stable stream before 6.49.7 or the long-term stream before 6.48.6, your devices are vulnerable. So check for updates, apply the updates as quickly as you can. There are at least 900,000 MikroTik routers which appear to be on the internet, so that is a lot of attack surface out there, and yes, expect the attacks to be thrown at your kit. Yeah, Ivanti. So who remembers Mobiline? I remember Mobiline. It was quite cool. In 2020, it got bought by Ivanti. So Mobiline is now Ivanti's mobile endpoint protection solution or management solution. There is a current vulnerability with a uncomfortably perfect 10 out of 10 CVSS severity rating. The CVE number for this is CVE 2023 35078. It's a remote authentication bypass vulnerability. And yeah, basically is a pretty simple to exploit, but very serious vulnerability in the Mobiline core. So if you are using Ivanti Endpoint Manager Mobile, which was formerly Mobiline Core, you need to look for patches ASAP. Just checking. Yep, it affects 11.10, 11.9, 11.8, and anything older. Patches have been released for 11.8.1.1, 11.9.1.1, and 11.10.0.2. The vulnerability does exist in end-of-life versions. So if you are still using something which is end of life as in end of support, that's an interesting question, isn't it? What determines end of life? I think my personal view is the point at which you can no longer get security patches for something is its ultimate end of life. You can kind of maybe live with a lack of engineering fixes, or it'll die a death naturally as things move on. But the point at which the vendor stops providing you security patches is the absolute end point for having anything on well, in fact, having anything live in your systems. So if you are using ex-mobile iron stuff get upgraded. If you're using Ivanti Endpoint Manager Mobile, make sure you have applied the patches because, as we say, this is trivial to exploit and very serious. The patches are out, of course, so they should be applicable. The Norwegian government got, as the register says, got harpooned. So we know that there are people out there using this particular vulnerability to attack state at a state level. So you can kind of imagine the sort of attackers that are using this one. VMware has fixed a bug which I think I would put this bug in the category of so VMware Tanzu application service and isolation segment, which is basically a VM tool for helping enterprises automate the deployment of applications across on-premise or public and private clouds. This vulnerability results in the admin API credentials being logged in hex in the system logs. Hence the they have fixed it. So there are patches available. That's it. Yeah. So definitely recommend applying those patches ASAP. A small mitigation to this is that if you don't have access to the system logs, then you can't find the admin passwords, admin accounts. However, bearing in mind, you think, oh, well, in that case, I've got to be an admin, so does it matter? I don't really care. Well, no, there are other admin accounts, and there may be admin accounts for different levels of privilege that you could exploit in order to elevate your own privileges, that sort of thing. So it is strongly recommended that you rotate your admin credentials, basically change your admin passwords and your API keys, so that any leaked passwords won't work. So it's not just a case of patch it so it stops happening. This is patch it so it stops happening, and bear in mind that any of your existing admin passwords may well have been compromised or may well be sitting in system logs in your VMware stack, waiting for people to misappropriate them. So not so well done, VMware, on coding that one up. And yeah, perhaps you need to take that one back to your DevSecOps people as why are we not checking for this before it goes into production? So just a couple of other things. Interesting one from Google. They are setting out to add in functionality in Chrome that gives you a link preview. Feature it's kind of around, but we've seen this in other browsers, and I think some versions of the desktop version of Chrome may do this already. But there's going to be a more general use of hover over a link, and it shows you a preview of where you would go. There is Google are using an interesting approach to this. So they've got the idea of ephemeral windows and tabs, and they are then looking to be able to provide you a preview tab in an ephemeral temporary window, and then convert that into a regular tab within the current window if that's where you want to go. So it is useful, and I remain a little bit skeptical as to whether, if you were to look at a malicious site via link preview, whether that can still be exploited to trigger malware or trigger exploits in the browser, that sort of thing. But it is better than actually clicking on the link and sending your browser directly to the page. So that's an interesting one to look out for. And then finally from me, this is another one that comes under the category of, oh, can you really seriously? Um, the Australian Home Affairs Department accidentally leaked the personal information of participants in a government cybersecurity report. So around 50 business owners and employees um, took part in a understanding small business and cybersecurity study for the Australian government. Their names, addresses, phone numbers, and emails were then published on the Parliament website in response to a question from the Shadow Cybersecurity and Home Affairs Minister. And we think that giving the governments in general the ability to you know, put things like the online safety bill in the UK into law, and yet this is the sort of level that no, yeah, okay, it's Australia, it's not the UK. I'm UK based. I could shrug my shoulders and walk away. However, Australia is a very mature democracy. Australia also, at a national level, takes cybersecurity extremely seriously. So, if the Australian government can do something as daft as this, then I think pretty much any government, any Western government could do something as stupid as this. So, really, let's have a think about this. Do we really want people who've got that little understanding of how this stuff works in the real world, making decisions around how secure they think we should be? That is all from me for today. So thank you for listening, and I'll speak to you all again